All right, 1 p.m. on the dot. Ask me anything. I almost said November, but it's December, isn't it? It is December 14th, 2023. So we'll go ahead and kick this thing off. Got all the questions called up. I've got some water. It's going to be a great one, so let's dive right in. First of all, I'm going to read a cool message that I got from a Linchpin member, Andy T. It says, "Hi Pat, I'm just messaging to say thank you so much for the programming, but more than that, the mindset. I've been a member of Linchpin for a couple of years and have always enjoyed what we did, but only in the last few months have I truly embraced what we do. So how interesting is that? Been a member for a couple months, following along, doing this stuff, for a couple years, but only in the last couple months started paying attention to some of the more nuanced behavior which it gets into. I come from a competitive track background where I felt I had to tick every box in every training session exactly as written, to the point of training all hours of the day and making up sessions if I was sick or couldn't attend. As you could imagine, this didn't do much good for my track career. Fast forward 15 years later, and I feel like I've overcome that compulsion. I'm working out 5 days a week. Sometimes it's the RX version, sometimes it's the wild card, sometimes it's scaled, the dumbbell version, or the no equipment option. One day I'll set my hair on fire and send it, and another day I'll just move at a casual pace. But what I am doing is consistently getting in 20 to 23 workouts a month. And lo and behold, it works, both physically and mentally. I'm healthier and fitter than I've ever been, and it's really thanks so much to the programming and mindset. So very cool. That's why we do what we do. So it's cool when you see it click with somebody. Okay, let's dive right in. From the private Facebook group and the BTWB squads, from Lexi H. Were you considering other names for Linchpin before settling on it? Oh yeah, and I can't tell you off the top of my head what names I had in mind, but I went through a bunch. This process took a while, and I did a ton of research and bounced it off a lot of friends, and then I didn't find Linchpin till near the end. I can't remember. I would put words that I liked into online things that generated like a thesaurus or or whatnot. They'd give you other similar words that meant the same thing, and that would lead me to new words, and I finally settled on Linchpin. So it took a bit, but I got there. But yeah, there was a lot that went into it, and then I found out there was an actual symbol with the Linchpin, and I was like, done deal. James W. I have a fear of box jumps with scars to match. Ouch! Not wanting to see my tibia again. What is your go-to for replacement exercises? In many videos you mentioned tuck jumps and broad jumps as the explosive options compared to also mentioning step-ups, but is one preferred to the other given the stimulus of a box jump you're trying to achieve? Hope the hip is healing well. Thank you. Hip's healing well. So, okay, if you don't want to do box jumps, let's just assume for a second those are just off the table, never coming back, then I would try to jump in any way that you can, which is why tuck jumps for height are no joke and broad jumps for distance. Both of those are going to be just fine, and neither one's going to shortchange you. The step-ups I would place in a lower priority than tuck jumps or broad jumps. And I would do that because you're not jumping on a step-up. And so yeah, you're moving potentially the same range of motion, stepping up onto a box and standing tall as if you jumped up onto a box and stood tall, but you're not getting that explosive jump. So step-ups would be for somebody that doesn't want to do box jumps, doesn't want to do broad jumps, doesn't want to do tuck jumps. Okay, you can do a step-up, and that'll still be some nice leg strength, and you're covering the range of motion. Chris R. chimed in, which is a great answer here, that he mentioned you can get those soft foam plyo boxes these days. Soft enough that you're not going to bust up your shin, but still firm enough that you can jump on them. And I've got a set of the Rogue ones in my garage, and they're fantastic. And there's varying heights as well, and so you can build up, right? Start with a small height, build confidence, a little bit more height, build confidence until you're good to go. So those would be something to try as well. But tuck jumps or broad jumps, you'll be solid. And just go back and forth. That's probably the best thing that you could do. One time when box jumps come up, if you don't want to do it, tuck jumps. The next time they come up, broad jumps, and then go back and forth. You'll be solid. Patrick S. 2 questions. Number 1, how's Emily doing? You mentioned that she has been sick for a while. She's finally doing better. Thank you for asking. But man, the Sherwood household has been just smacked down with illness from daycare and the kids bringing things home from their basketball team and sickness, and it makes its way through 5 family members, and they're like always somebody just with something. It's been nasty. It's been some nasty bouts, but she's feeling good. I'm actually feeling good. Knock on wood. I think everyone's okay right now, so we'll see. Okay, and second one. In your Linchpin conversation entitled, I'm Getting a Total Hip Replacement. Yep, as a matter of fact, the surgery was 4 weeks as of yesterday. So I'm just over 4 weeks into recovery. You mentioned the reason you finally came down to the necessity to get this done was because the pain and incredible lack of mobility in your hip. True statement. For example, going below parallel with the bone spur that they found. Yep. And also you had no internal or external rotation in your hip. Also accurate. And therefore it was extremely painful to put on your shoes and socks because you could not put your foot in your thigh. Absolutely accurate. I was wondering how those simple necessities of going below parallel and hip mobility have improved since surgery. Would it be possible to see a video demo, etc., etc.? So, first of all, thanks for asking. I haven't yet. I'm still getting on my sock and shoe in kind of a funky manner because I'm still not internally and externally rotating my leg to like flop my, as you would sit down in a chair and put one foot on your other knee to put a sock or a shoe on. I'm not doing that level of like external rotation yet because for the first 6 weeks post hip replacement surgery, you have a relatively high chance of dislocation because your hip's like a ball in a socket, that socket being the acetabulum, and you get the hip, the head of the femur in there. It takes about 6 weeks for the bone to kind of regrow so that hip won't dislocate out of the socket, out of the acetabulum. So for the first 6 weeks, got to be really careful with some rotation like that. So I haven't been doing that yet. At the 6 week point, that's when I have my next follow-up with my surgeon, so in 2 more weeks. And I'm hoping at that time they shoot an x-ray, bone growth looks good, and then I get cleared hot to do that. But I'll tell you what, 4 weeks after the surgery, it's amazing. If anyone's on the fence or needs it, obviously consult your physician. It's amazing. Like the chronic pain that I get used to living with, that I was just kind of like, well, this is just what life is like. Life just hurts this much. Oh well. Running hurts this much. Squatting hurts this much. Oh well, suck it up. A lot of that's gone, which is crazy already. I'm only 4 weeks into recovery. I'm in a very dangerous point right now where I'm actually feeling good, and so it could be easy to overdo it. And so I'm having to exert some discipline to not overdo it. The other thing is when I go into the garage and I do like my rehab exercises, I'm doing some squats now, like goblet squats with a light kettlebell. And I've got a soft foam plyo box out there that when I sit on it, it puts me like just below parallel, like an inch below parallel, which is the perfect depth for where I am with my rehab. But I have such an appreciation for it because pre-surgery, for me to sit down on that box below parallel would be like a 30-minute warm-up procedure, a painful warm-up procedure, and then I'd like barely get there. Now, I go out, I rehab in the morning, midday, and the evening, 3 sessions a day. Now I go out there in the morning, pull out that short plyo box, and with no warm-up at all, squat down to it. Rep number 1, squat down to it. It's amazing, and I have such an appreciation for that because for years and years that was not humanly possible for me, that I am like giddy with excitement as my therapy and I start to continue to strengthen post-surgery, what the future holds. So I'm stoked. So thank you. Nikos G. I think I have enough shoulder strength since I can do wall walks. However, I can't for the life of me kick up into a handstand. I think it's mainly mental. Any tips on how to overcome this? Let's see. And he says, thanks for all you do. It means the world to us. Hang in there with the robo hip. Thank you. So I had an idea as to what I thought would be a good answer for this, but I ran it by Emily, my wife, the former gymnast. And what she recommended is, with no further information, based upon what you said, you can do wall walks, you probably do have adequate shoulder strength and stability to hold yourself in an inverted position like that, that I think you nailed it. I think it's most likely mental. So what you could do is kind of the same thing. We've got our little 2.5-year-old daughter. I take her once a week, drive her to like the local gymnastics facility, and we're like already got her enrolled in like little kids gymnastics, which is hysterical to watch, especially because she's a lunatic and doesn't pay attention to the teacher, which I'm sure frustrates them. But they do this one section every now and then with the little kids where they'll try to teach them how to start to do like a donkey kick. Well, they'll put their two hands down on a mat, and my daughter's 2.5, so I'll hold her hips, and she'll like try to kick her feet into the air, and I'll like lift her a little bit so she starts to feel the weight on her hands and her body getting up a little bit. You do the same thing as an adult, same thing that my wife recommended. There was like just donkey kicks. Hands down on the ground, good pressed out tension the whole 9 yards, and just slight little kick your feet up off the ground. Just a small distance, because we're building confidence. Do that however long it takes for you, whatever your journey is, until that's a no-brainer. You're super confident, and then you kick a little bit higher until that's a no-brainer. You're super confident. You kick a little bit higher into the air, and you just are patient and build this up. When you get to the point where you're getting close to being inverted, well, then you would put your hands close to a wall so that if that point in time came that you did actually kick enough to go over, you wouldn't go over. You would just touch the wall. But you've got the shoulder strength and confidence to know that you can hold yourself in that position and you don't just crumble down onto your head. And that's what we do. So those slow donkey kicks up over time would probably be a really great thing for you to do. If you get a buddy to help you spot, it might be a good thing also. Let's see. Julie B. Mobility and technique allowing, should we always follow CrossFit standards, such as when doing wall balls, always going below parallel in the squat? I think I understand your question. So if mobility is not an issue and technique's not an issue, should you always follow CrossFit standards? And you mentioned the wall ball, you mentioned going below parallel. So, if I'm following your question, I would not see something like going below parallel in a wall ball or a back squat or a front squat or something like that as a CrossFit standard. Personally, that's just not how I would interpret it in my mind. Just throw that out the window, for me anyway. Because it's not a competition. Who cares about the Open or the games or whatnot? If you understand why you want to move your joints, like you said, mobility and technique, assuming that those are solid, you want to move your joints through a full range of motion because you want to keep that range of motion active and usable for as long as possible. And then you want to strengthen your body, your musculature, your joints through the fullest range of motion that you safely can so that you are fit and capable in life. And so that's why I would squat below parallel. Not because it's a CrossFit standard, because if you think about you're doing the strength and conditioning program that you're doing for this body that you're going to live in planet Earth for as long as you can and be as fit and capable as you can, getting it as fit, fast, and strong as possible through the fullest range of motion possible is going to be good. And so, if you only squat to parallel and not below, because it's a gym standard or something like that, but you have the flexibility to go much lower, but you don't, well, what happens when you go outside the walls of the gym? Maybe you need to pick something up that's very heavy or whatnot, and almost like a strong man, like lapping a heavy stone or lapping a sandbag, which most things in the real world aren't a barbell with beautiful knurling and plates that stand a certain number of inches off the ground. It's usually an odd object, hunk of garbage, hunk of whatever that you do need to straddle, get your arms around, lap it, pull it in tight like a bear hug, and stand up, right? So a lot of times when you do that, you're going to find yourself really far below parallel before you can stand it up if you're like lapping something in the real world. Well, if you never developed that bottom end strength, that full range of motion strength, because quote unquote the CrossFit standard said I just had to go below parallel, so I always just went just a crack below parallel, even though I could have gone much deeper, you're not doing yourself any favors in the real world. And so that's why I always kind of say I'd rather have us train for the real world and not worry about any competition standards and things like that. So for those reasons, full range of motion, mobility and technique allowing, that's your best friend right there. Okay, Brandon L. How can or how many strokes per minute? How can or should strokes per minute vary on the rower for different workouts? Looking at everyone's posts from the 5K, every picture I looked at had a 26 to a 34 strokes per minute. I did the workout with a fellow Linchpinner. I pulled 17 strokes per minute. He pulled 15 to 16 strokes per minute. He finished in 1933. I finished in 21 while stopping to answer the phone once. I thought we are not great on the rower because we were 5'9", but now I'm thinking our stroke rate sucks. Side note. Okay. So I didn't do a lot of stroke rate research before this. I would check out Concept 2. They've got so much good information, video and content, everything that you want to know for rowing. So go ahead and check that out. But however, broad brush, so to speak, I think a stroke rates in the 30s are probably relatively high, all things considered. You know, when you see a lot of great rowers, you may not see like a super fast cadence on the rower, meaning a really, really high stroke rate. You'll probably see something a bit on the lower side because each pull that they get, even though the stroke rate's not really high, it's a good full pull, it's a powerful pull, it moves the flywheel a great deal, and then they take that nice recovery back before they get another nice big powerful pull. Versus somebody else whose pull might not be quite as powerful, and since it's not as powerful, they have to make up for that with like a faster turnover or a higher stroke rate. Now, yes, some of that may certainly have to do with height as well, but you mentioned that you're 5'9". I'm not the world's tallest guy. I'm only 5'8". And so if you're 5'9", you rode a 5K in 21 minutes while taking a phone call for work, by the way. Okay, so that's fantastic. Let's say that you would have rode a 20-minute 5K if you didn't have to. I don't know how long the phone call was. And your stroke rate was around 17 strokes per minute. I would say you're pretty solid there on the rower, meaning that even though you're not super tall, each stroke that you had was a good, powerful, full pull followed by a recovery. I don't think that many people would probably look for you to increase your stroke rate into like the high 20s or 30s. I would find that hard to believe. But each person's also a little bit different. Again, I'm 5'8", I'm not the world's tallest guy. I try to make the stroke rate powerful, but I will say my stroke rate is a little bit on the higher side. It's certainly not in the 30s, that's for sure. But after just playing around for a lot, I found that's just kind of what works well for me. But I think you're doing good, but I would look into the Concept 2 stuff if you really want to like go down a rabbit hole on some rowing. Let's see. Luis V wants to know if we can use the BTWB 1.5 mile run program, but for rowing, I would say yes. I haven't heard of anyone doing that, but I would say yes. So if you do that, let me know how it goes. Brian T. While we understand real life happens and you've got a full family, I'd be interested to hear what your day typically looks like, from turning off the alarm to turning on the lights. Okay. Well, I probably get up around, my alarm's set for 6:15 in the morning. That's when my alarm's set. But I almost never sleep to my alarm, just for whatever reason. I wake up naturally, so I normally get up at 5 something, just because my body wakes up, and I then go into the kitchen, get some coffee, and sometime later in the kitchen shut the alarm off on my phone because I didn't need it because I've been up for a while. And family's not up yet. I get on my phone and I basically go to the Linchpin Facebook group and the Instagram profile, and I just start going through that, seeing how everyone's doing, sharing people's stories, things like that. I usually do that first thing in the morning while I'm cleaning up my taking care of my coffee. Then it's just time to get the kids out the door, and that's quite an evolution with a 2.5-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 14-year-old. And so we've got our system down of breakfast and clothes and teeth and books and homework to make sure everyone gets out the door. Wife will take everybody usually in the morning off to school, and then I'm going to the office here, and I'm on the computer, and based upon wherever we are in my cycle, I've got all my weeks laid out. It could be a programming week, it could be a video week where I'm creating all the video content that goes along with each workout. It could be an upload week. It's stuff taken care of with, very not random and whatnot, but basically I'm in here all day, every day, doing something related to linchpin and varied not random. And that's it. And I stand in this office on the computer or here talking to the old phone all day long, walk out into the kitchen, have lunch, walk back in here until I leave at about 3:30 in the afternoon or so to go get my daughter at daycare, come back, get her from daycare, and then after that I try to be switched off as much as I can and just with the family. And so I try to, no kidding, focus hardcore during the day, work, so that once the kids come home, I can as much as possible be with them. Yes, I still check my phone way more than I should. I've got one of those, occupations in global communities that there's really never a quote-unquote total off day or off hour. There's people in every time zone all around the world doing stuff, and so I try to manage that without being a workaholic to the point that my family hates me. I'm sure I get it right some days. I'm sure I get it wrong some days. And then I, sneak in a workout whenever I can sneak in a workout. Sometimes that's during lunch. Sometimes it's after all the kids come home and I drag somebody into the gym. So that's generally it, the long and the short of it. Okay. From the BTWB squad, Jeremy D. Coach, what are your beliefs on using linchpin for strength for college athletes? Do you think they are better off in the short term doing sport-specific training? Thanks for all you do. So what I would, it really depends. Sorry, I know that's such an unsatisfying answer. First of all, I would go to Varied Not Random and Boz and I did a 2-part interview with Stefan Roche, who previous to his time with CrossFit was a collegiate strength and conditioning coach, and he spoke specifically on this topic and how he implemented it for some of the sports teams that he worked with. And I can't remember the name of that episode. I think it has strength and conditioning or collegiate strength and conditioning in the title of the Varied Not Random episodes, and it's part 1 and part 2. So check those out. I would also say it just depends upon the program, right? I chat with athletes every now and then. There's a collegiate athlete that works out in the garage every now and then that my wife trains her when she's back home. And it just depends on, some collegiate strength and conditioning programs are pretty darn good. They do good movements. They've got somebody who knows what they're doing, making solid decisions. And there are some that look so archaic and in the Stone Ages and inefficient and idiotic that it's mind-boggling. And so it would all just depend upon that individual. But there's very few sports in the world that wouldn't benefit from functional movements, from intensity, and from intelligently planned variants that make sense based upon whatever the demands of their particular sport are. But I can't think of too many sports that don't benefit from squats, deadlifts, power cleans, sprinting, and being an explosive, strong athlete that has lungs. And so generally speaking, yes. But I would say that's the strength and conditioning aspect. The sport-specific aspect is then, if you're on the baseball team, you still got to go to batting practice. Like, there's your sport-specific sort of thing. And then your strength and conditioning program in the gym helps you hopefully excel during practice and during your sport-specific training and whatnot. Okay. Daniel S. A question about deadlifts stemming from the recent 4 sets of 8 that we did. My limiting factor on the larger sets is grip strength and not leg or core strength. Is it better to stay is it better to stay at the limit of grip strength, or should I use wrist wraps or straps to lift a heavier weight? Great question. So continue to build grip strength, right? And now we've always got barbells, kettlebells, pull-up bars, something in our hands. So you're going to be building some grip strength. We do farmer's carries for accessory work. Every now and then they're in a workout. So continue to build grip strength. But in your specific question, I would say on something like a 4x8 deadlift day, or whatever the rep range happened to be, at the point that your grip becomes the limiting factor, like you said, legs are good, technique solid, core is still strong, it's the grip, I would say yes to use wraps, 100%, whatever style you choose or is appropriate for you, so that the grip is no longer the limiting factor and you can fully maximize those sessions for your glutes, your hamstrings, and your posterior chain, which would be the prime movers. Obviously the grip is very important, but yes, so that would be my answer for you. Go ahead in that situation Embrace the grips. Okay. Philip P. What's a good exercise that will prepare/strengthen the muscles for carrying a toddler or two? I assume some form of carry, but I'm looking for the best way to prepare for parental toddler carry. Must be a little person coming into your life, huh? So that's awesome, very cool. First of all, everything you're doing is fine. You'll be fine. You'll be ready. If you're hitting the workout of the day, you'll be good to go. You want to do a little extra prep? If you've got a sandbag or something that you can bear hug, go ahead and bear hug that thing or cradle it. Go for a little walk around the driveway for a bit. There's also, I'm going to mess it up now, maybe somebody in the audience can help me out. I don't know if it's fiction, Greek mythology, a story. What's that story of that individual who carried the calf up the hill every day or whatnot and started when the calf was just brand new and a newborn little calf, but did it every day, and so the calf continued to grow, and over the course of days, weeks, months, and years, the calf grew huge, and this person got stronger and stronger because, unbeknownst to them, they just kept doing this every day, but the load got heavier. To some degree, that's what will happen with this little baby that comes into your life. The little baby's born, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds, whatever it happens to be, and you'll carry that little sucker around with no problem. And you're going to carry that sucker around every darn day for years. And unbeknownst to you, they're going to continue to grow. And you're going to just get accustomed to the weight. And they'll get heavier and heavier, and you'll be carrying them, and it'll be good to go. So it's almost worked in, if you will. Let's see. Mike M. What's your philosophy on stretching? Is what you program in the cool-down stuff sufficient for people, or is it a bare minimum? And do you do a separate mobility program? I don't do a separate mobility program. What we program in the private track is just the tried and true classic stretches that are time-tested. They work for a broad swath of the population. There's nothing sexy going on there. There's just things, if you do them repeatedly, they work. You can go as far down the rabbit hole as you want with flexibility and mobility to the whole 9 yards. And if you've got something specific or kind of a niche little thing going on, you might be, it might benefit you. But I will also say you might want to check out, Mike, let me find it for you. I looked this up beforehand, so it'll be ready for you. Go to Varied Not Random. Episode number 76, and that's called Improving Range of Motion, What Really Works. And I think you will find that helpful. So Varied Not Random number 76. Let's see. All right, let's see here. Back to the next question. All right, Eric M. Hey Pat, I'm excited to say I'm cleared after a sprain that I had to get back into the movements that I love. Seeing you go through a hip replacement has also been inspiring. Thanks for sharing that. Anyway, my question is, do you have any recommendation for content or accessory programming for air assault or air bike workouts? I have a lot of features and functions on my Rogue bike, but I feel like most of the time it's just for warm-up or for calories. What about intervals and things like that? So, I'll be honest with you as well. I've got the Rogue Air bike in my garage, and I'm sure that monitor that it has does 25 things that I'm totally unaware of. I haven't explored the monitor either. I just do whatever I need to do for the work of the day and punch out of there. I will say, I'm always hesitant to say these things, especially when they're not done, because I can't give you a timeline and people expect them quickly. So I don't know when this is going to come out, but I will say that I've constructed a rower and air bike sort of, if you really just wanted to dive into those machines and build some capacity in those machines, a protocol for that. I've got all the workouts and all that laid out. I haven't put it into an actual format to send it out to people and all that stuff. It's probably going to be a VNR cycle, but it exists and it's there. But I will also say, if you are in love with your air bike, you can also, this question actually lays in really nice with the next question as well. If you feel like you just want to get more time on that air bike, you can just choose to use the air bike on any workout that we do that involves a monostructural component such as rowing or running. So anytime, let me read the next question. This will lay into your question, Eric. So the next and the final question is from Ben. It says, less of a question, more of a request. We did the 5K row this week, which was awesome. It hurt like hell, and I didn't even want to start, but it just hits in a different way, but in a really satisfying way compared to the bike or a run. I know some people might hate me for this, but I'm going to request more rowing workouts. I'd love to see us all getting after some 2Ks and 5Ks, etc., etc. But that requires practice. Can you throw a row option a bit more often? Thanks for the great programming. Love what you're doing. So you've got Ben that would love to row a bit more. So you've got Eric that wants to go ahead and hit the bike, right? And so what both of you might benefit from, and maybe you're unaware of, is when you're looking at the workout of the day, whatever the workout happens to be, there's something on the, Melanie's saying, oh goodness, no, doesn't want more rowing. I think most people wouldn't want more rowing. But if you do, if you want more bike, you want more row, you want more whatever it is, anytime that the workout has a monostructural component in it, it has a row, it has a bike, or it has a run, either as a standalone day, like long, or it's an interval day, sprint, or it's in a mixed modality session with 2 or 3 other elements, and it's a 3 or 4 round workout. But if there's a run, a bike, or a row, when you tap on the workout of the day on the BTWB app, there's a little section below the workout that says, I think, athlete notes, athlete info, something like that. If you tap on that for more information, it gives you options to use the other gear. So for example, if the workout of the day was Helen, 3 rounds of time, 400 meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, 12 pull-ups. So 3 rounds with a 400 meter run. And you're like, you know what? I just don't use the bike enough. I wish today was the bike. Your wish has been granted. You can do the bike option. Just tap on that little thing that says athlete info or more info or athlete notes, whatever the heck it says, and it will tell you if you want to bike on this particular workout, here's in place of the 400 meter run, you would do 1200 meters per round on the air bike. Or if you want to row, it would say, hey, you know what? You want to replace the 400 meters of running with something on the rower, replace it with 500 meters of rowing. And it does that every day for every workout that has a monostructural component. We give you that information, whether it's a 400 meter, 800 meter, 1000 meter, whatever it is, we'll give you the exact right distance for you to hop on that other piece of gear. So if you want more rowing in your life, more bike in your life, you got it. Just click on that. Or vice versa. If you're a beast on the bike and you're like, I got to get my butt out and run a bit more. I know that today is, that terrible sprint day that it's every 3 minutes, 12 calories for men, 8 for women, and you're a beast on the bike and you always crush it and you're like, I hate running. I should run. Okay, sure. I programmed an air bike workout today, but if that's really where you need to be, tap on that little section and it will tell you what to do for running, or whatever it happens to be. So you'll be totally good to go. So ask and you shall receive. So that, I think, is everything. Yeah, we are good to go. Let me make sure. Let's see. I see somebody says I'm not running outside in 28-degree weather. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Melanie says, just run, people. It's the most functional fitness. Okay, all right. I think we are solid. All right, well, what is today? Thursday. All right, it's a rest day for most of us, right? Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a fantastic Thursday, wherever you are in the world. Friday, probably in Australia. Enjoy your Friday. And we'll talk again later.